But your GM is just bad. Do you realize how much of a fucking cop-out that is?
It's not a cop-out. You said they give you extreme encounters.
Oh, your build is wrong. Not much better, asshole. At all.
No, not your build is wrong. Your play is wrong. It is Ronald the Rules Lawyer. Today, I'm just going to react to a couple of videos that are negative videos about Pathfinder. Also, I have to say now that my thumbnail is a bit clickbaity because, of course, you all know me. Despite what some people claim who never really listen to me, I'm not like this rage machine. Pathfinder's not for everybody. And so if their point is it's not for them because of XYZ, okay, good for them. But if they jump to some conclusions or they misrepresent something about the system, perhaps out of lack of experience with it, I'm gonna write the record. Oh, also these creators, you know, compared to the size of my channel, they're not as big, and so I'm not going to be particularly mean. That would be kind of mean and not cool. I mean, we'll see if they deserve my ire. This title makes me think he's going to go after people who like Pathfinder, who are recommending Pathfinder to him. I made a video about this. You can search for it on YouTube. It's titled "In Defense of Pathfinder Advocacy." We're talking about games here, and sure, like if someone complains about something in 5e and it's addressed by a system you like, it should be okay to like bring it up, you know? Like it's kind of, just don't be an asshole about it. The Chemist Codex, let's look at his channel. Some random nerdy topics. Oh, about chemistry, likes chemistry. Very cool.
Okay, I know what this video is called, but don't get too angry.
Okay, I'm gonna say I left the comments on his video already about how it seems like his noise canceling messing up with his audio.
If you disagree with me, that's fine. If Pathfinder is your preferred TTRPG to play, I'm not going to tell you that your fun is wrong. Another thing I want to emphasize is that I haven't actually played that much Pathfinder before. I've played a fair amount of D&D 3.5, which I think is very comparable to Pathfinder 1st Edition, and I haven't even touched Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but I'm not going in blind. I've looked at the basic rules, I've looked at the mechanics, I've watched some videos about the game, so I feel like I have a good idea of what the system is.
First, it's, you know, he's expressing his own opinion. He's not going to be mad at anybody else for having their opinion. However, his video thumbnail is saying, "Shut up about Pathfinder." I mean, it's like, that's kind of not, I don't know, I guess it's clickbait. And he's up front. Obviously, he should, you know, his opinion's going to be more informed if he actually plays Pathfinder 2e. However, you know, I myself want to comment on some other RPGs that are not D&D and Pathfinder, but I know, given my time limitations, I just won't have time to actually play them or run them. So I'm not going to just immediately dismiss his opinion for that reason. We'll see what his opinions are and whether they would be informed by actual experience. I have to say, when I looked at the playtest for Pathfinder 2e, I was underwhelmed. It was actually when I saw it in play that I actually, and then especially when the actual final version came out, that I came to appreciate why it was doing the things it was doing. I think one could glean a bunch of stuff the way I comment on things I haven't played on my channel, like the remaster rules and stuff, or something I think is a problem.
And frankly, my issues pertain more to the fan base rather than the actual system itself.
Ah, okay. His issues are with the fan base and the system itself. Okay, I guess that's what his thumbnail's about. Okay, I see a comment. It's not my fault if I say, "Hey, Pathfinder fixes that," and that's the 100th time the person complaining has heard that and they get mad about it. That was actually one of my thoughts too. It might be my first interaction with, let's say I'm talking to Chemist Codex at a local gaming store. I don't know if he's like made this video yet. I just know he's like, "Oh, I get getting confused by bonus actions and actions, da da da." And I just bring it up. Like, I should have my head bitten off. But we'll see if he's what kind of specific behavior he's talking about. Let's be concrete here and not kind of act on a prejudgment about him.
Before I get into my grievances with Pathfinder, I figure I'll mention some of the things that I actually like. Is the idea of the 3-action economy, where you have. I also think Pathfinder 2nd Edition, it makes the game more accessible to new players, which is always a plus. So what don't I like about Pathfinder?
Okay, that was his pluses: 3-action economy and making it more accessible. It's possible that he didn't really deep dive into it much, if that was all he could say. I'm not looking for praise here, but that was kind of 40 seconds.
There are some issues that I have with the actual system itself, but what really motivated me to make this video is an issue I have with a certain type of player in the Pathfinder community. See, I come across a lot of Dungeons and Dragons related content on social media, and oftentimes in the comments there will be someone saying, just play Pathfinder, or Pathfinder fixes this, especially if the post is critiquing D&D. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with recommending Pathfinder to someone.
Okay, nothing inherently wrong with recommending it. And if we're talking about a video that is complaining about D&D, it seems like it's open game to me, not only for the OP, but also for other people perusing the comments. I thought these were like people personally interacting with him, but it's his reading comments online, interacting with other people. I don't know why he should take offense, from what I've heard so far.
If that person asked for a recommendation. To me...
If that person asked for a recommendation? Wait, but what if someone... I'm going to finish listening.
To me, these people come across like they act like Pathfinder is the best system in the world and it is flawless, which is far from the truth.
They're enthusiastic about it, but they don't. That doesn't necessarily mean they think it's flawless.
So allow me, someone who doesn't particularly like Pathfinder, to express why someone might not want to play that system. First off, I'm not a fan of Mechanical Crunch.
Okay, he's not a fan of Mechanical Crunch. Okay, it's not for him. But the whole idea of if someone doesn't ask for a recommendation, I don't know about that, because it depends on the person. Someone might genuinely have, they don't even think outside of 5e. They don't even think there's other games. So maybe it's appropriate. I don't know. Like, it seems like it's premature to say it's wrong in all situations to make a recommendation, and then to characterize them as thinking it's flawless. I don't know if anyone thinks it's flawless. They're just pointing out that something's done better. If someone is in a video, making a video or a post complaining about X specific thing, then it's completely appropriate to say, well, that is not an issue in another system. And it doesn't have to be Pathfinder. It can be Powered by the Apocalypse, Shadow of the Demon Lord, any other system. I don't like that bright line rule saying if only bring up another system if someone asks for a recommendation. It's not like you're insulting their character, you know? And someone could be really excited about what they're excited about. So, like when someone tells me Lancer's really good, or 4E, like, one thing I learned recently is that 4th edition has this daily limit of healing surges, and I thought that was kind of weird sounding. Okay, this was Knights of Last Call. This is Derek. He pointed out in his stream on 4th edition that Pathfinder 2E has a problem where how well you do in an individual fight doesn't matter because it doesn't deplete your daily resources. Because you can, if you have enough time, and you usually have enough time, can just heal everybody up to full with a unlimited resource, relatively unlimited. You can get everyone to full health. You can just treat wounds as often as you need to. And what 4E does is it means that if you do particularly poorly, you make poor decisions in the battle, and you lose a lot of hit points, it means you're going to have a tougher time with the subsequent encounters because you're running out of healing surges. And I thought that's a pro in 4th edition. And maybe look at 2E in a different light. And think of the pros and cons of the choices it made. So I'm like, that opened my mind and made me learn more about something that could be negative to some people who play Pathfinder 2E. And to me, something that I don't quite like about Pathfinder 2E myself. So I'm happy somebody like criticized something about my preferred system. Anyway, that's my long-winded way of saying, when someone says something, my first thought is to maybe investigate what they're saying and see if it's true. Maybe it'll make me learn something. I don't know.
Pathfinder 1E especially suffers from the sometimes overwhelming level of mechanical crunch that D&D 3.5 does.
It does. 1E is very... That was too much. The way bonuses stack with each other, they can change round to round, which is also one of my criticisms of D&D 4th edition. It tried to streamline 3rd edition, but there's still a lot of floating bonuses and stacking bonuses in 4E. But yeah, I like how 2E actually fixes that. Listen to me. Like, you don't have these wild fluctuations in bonuses usually.
I understand a lot of people like the mechanical crunch, and I've even enjoyed the mechanical crunch when I've embraced it. But I feel like a lot of people think that just because the system is crunchy, then it's good.
Just because it's crunchy, then it's good. I have criticisms of 1E because of its kind of crunch, but I think there's good crunch and there's bad crunch. I don't know. Our opinions are more nuanced than you're assuming in this case. Well, I don't know what these things you're responding to are. I don't know what these comments are.
And don't get me wrong, D&D 5e is still a very crunchy system, but it feels more manageable. Pathfinder is plagued with floating modifiers and hyper-specific conditions that feel like a slog to keep track of.
5e is definitely more streamlined and less complex than first edition Pathfinder and third edition D&D. And there are ways in which the way my brain works, I actually find how Pathfinder 2e to second edition systematizes its rules, especially the conditions that that they're easier for me to remember them than my experience remembering 5e conditions, because they seem to be more logical in a system. I don't know if that makes sense. I read from a Reddit comment that uses the phrase, learn once, use everywhere. And that's true with a lot of Pathfinder rules. You only have to learn it once, like a trait, what a trait means, and you learn it everywhere. Whereas in 5e, you usually have to read what's in the monster stat block because everything's bespoke. It's helpful that it's in the stat block, first of all, for certain folks, but you have to make sure to read it. Whereas a single word trait in Pathfinder 2e just calls to mind, oh, I know how that works. For me at least, I find that simpler. Anyway, I don't know how much experience, he says he has not played 2e, and so a lot of what he said so far is definitely true about 5e compared to first edition Pathfinder, but I would say for many folks it wouldn't be true with second edition. But we'll see.
And I have seen several people online mention that Pathfinder 2e is a lot easier to run as a GM, but I've seen other people mention that that's because it puts a lot more of this onto the players, and that can turn someone off from trying out Pathfinder.
Okay. You have more options and you have more choices in combat in 2e, and that's not for many players. Oh yeah, you can trust the encounter builder. That's the big thing about GMing Pathfinder 2e.
My next point is kind of related. Pathfinder 2e has too many character options, specifically feats. Looking at Archive of Nethys, Pathfinder 2e has over 5,000 feats. And granted, not all of these are available to a player at any given point. And for new players, they might not even know what feat would be best for them to take.
First, there's a lot of feats. Yes, there are. Some people might not want that level of choice. But that last thing he said there, players will not know what's best to take. You have a fear of making a mechanically unoptimal choice. And that comes from experience with other systems like first edition Pathfinder and D&D 5e. You don't want to make a bad choice, and so you got to look at all of them. But Pathfinder 2e, the gap between a optimized character and an unoptimized character is much smaller than in other systems, including D&D. One of the enjoyable parts, I think, about character creation for many people is that you can just have your concept of what you want to be and find things that fit your pre-chosen concept. Instead of it being an optimization exercise, you can just kind of prioritize fun and flavor over mechanics and just like choose, oh, I want to be a vampiric flower. Okay, with that rides around on a chair, who is my animal companion. You can do that. You can be a Leshy with the Dampier versatile heritage, and by second level, you can get the Beastmaster archetype and get the leg chair animal companion. Not everybody wants that level of choice, and Pathfinder can still serve you on that front. You just want to be a champion fighter in 5e? Well, here you can be a fighter or a barbarian who just hits hard and has a great sword. You can just do that too. It can be overwhelming, the number of feats. I wouldn't recommend, to a brand new player, if you're not sure they're going to be overloaded by the number of options, if they're using Path Builder, just have them limit themselves to the core rulebook, or actually Player Core 1 and Player Core 2, and select from the feats there. And at most, they'll have 8 class feats at level 1 to choose from, not 5,200. And then maybe 6 feats to choose from for your ancestry feat at level 1, 5 heritages to choose from. And you wouldn't have to read all of them. You can choose them from the name, kind of, most of the time. Yeah, I've run Pathfinder 2e with middle schoolers, and part of what helped is that they did not have experiences with other systems, and they weren't anxious about, oh, am I weakening my character? No, I'm not saying he's dumber than a middle schooler. I'm saying that negative experience with other systems can lead one to jump at a hasty conclusion here. He's a chemist. He's an intelligent person, but I think wrong in this instance.
A common point I see brought up regarding the amount of character options is that it allows for more creativity, which I greatly disagree with. I would argue that more creativity comes from the general rules that cover a broader scope. See, I find it more interesting and fun when players find uncommon ways to use their character's abilities.
Maybe his style of RPG is just more open-ended. I see the appeal, and one of the things I want to do is play in some old school games of just kind of, you have very few abilities on your sheet and you're just using the environment, using your inventory, or you have just 2 spells to cast today. One of them is to create water and finding a way to make that work to accomplish what you need to do. There's room for that style of play. However, I do think D&D 5e might not be the best system for that kind of play, because there are ways in which some things are very defined. I can't think of an example. Just the other day on my server, someone pointed out a rule and I'm like, oh, that closes the imagination. Why did you have to be so specific about that, Watsy? I can't think of an example right now.
They have to think of it in the moment, and they're not even sure if their idea is even feasible. As a GM,
So they have to ask the GM, may I do this? I don't know if I like that situation for the GM.
As a GM, these are some of my favorite moments.
Oh, he's
and
a GM.
unless something is impossible or explicitly forbidden by the rules, I'll let the player at least try.
Okay. I'll let the player at least try, as long as it's not forbidden from the rules. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of examples. I think there are examples in D&D 5e where something is defined in an ability. Like, for example, the fact that only the rogue can hide with a bonus action and then attack in the same turn. That kind of means you cannot let other people do the same thing. Does that make sense? That's maybe not... I think that's just one example. There are ways in which 5e can be pretty quote-unquote hyper-specific. It's just a question of is your GM going to be generous or not? He sounds like a yes GM. Someone will say yes or yes but. And wants his players to have fun. 5e may very well be the better game for his table compared to 2e. My one thing, though, is I think everybody should try more games. Like, if he's not for crunch, then he should explore games that have less crunch. And I don't know if he has. He's finding that the story and the kind of fun he likes slows to a crawl once initiative is rolled, then maybe he should look at other systems. Just try it out. It doesn't have to be Pathfinder. Powered by the Apocalypse fixes that. It doesn't have initiative. If someone goes to a forum on Reddit and makes a post on Reddit, like, I don't like something about 5e, we don't know if you're not aware of, like, 2e or how much you've even thought about trying other systems. So expect to hear some suggestions. And if you're taking it personally, then don't, I guess, unless they're being assholes, of course.
I'm also going to take this opportunity to get a little mean.
Mean.
Apologies in advance if I offend you. I've seen some people complain about D&D combat, saying it's just get into position and attack bad guy until they're dead. However, I don't blame D&D for this. I blame myself.
Oh no! I'm sorry. There's too much pressure on DMs to blame themselves for players not having fun or combat being boring. If there's not enough movement in your combat, I don't know what specifically he's going to talk about. People are just hitting each other. But that is caused by the rules. It is. And it doesn't have to be.
When combat has gotten boring and repetitive, it's usually because I've stopped describing what I'm doing beyond I attack the monster or the monster attacks you.
Okay, what about the players describing what they're doing? Maybe they need to describe... Anyway, I just feel like too much pressure's put on DMs already in the D&D community.
Describe your attacks. Say where you're placing your attacks. Put in any sort of flavor into your game.
I have 2 rants. One, don't put pressure on DMs. But also, if you're thinking the combat's boring in 5e, and it's all about the solution is description, that's just one aspect of it. There's something else going on mechanically under the surface that you should be open-minded about. Maybe house ruling some of the I'm not even asking you to leave 5e, but maybe like changing something mechanically that might address that. It's not just description. Anyway, okay, Megan is messing up with my microphone. Okay, people love Megan, so I'll put her in frame. Okay.
For all its faults, and there are many faults, D&D 5e is still an incredibly accessible system. It's not necessarily easier to play. Like I said, it's still a very crunchy system. But it has incredible name recognition. And between all the actual plays that use the system, A person can easily pick up the basics through osmosis.
I'm a little distracted by my cat right now.
Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons are not the only options out there for heroic fantasy. Dungeon World.
Dungeon World, powered by the apocalypse. Good. Yay. I was going to say maybe he might like that.
Rules.
Oh, and like learning things through osmosis, he was addressing it earlier. He doesn't want players to have to read too much. And he's patient enough as a DM and he runs his game in a certain way where they don't necessarily have to know all the rules. And also 5e's kind of conducive to that kind of play where people can just like, because we're kind of relying on the DM to know the rules, play that way. That might work for him and for his group. And they're not looking for crunch and the benefits that brings. I guess my main takeaways are it doesn't work for him, but to say people should shut up about Pathfinder I disagree with that. If he's saying that, then he's recommending his own another game right now as we speak. So people should recommend games that they're passionate about to each other.
The common pitch that I see for Dungeon World is that it's what you think D&D will be like before you actually play D&D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My guess is he might prefer to run Dungeon World. He might like it more, but his players want to play D&D because of the brand recognition and maybe they watch Critical Role or something, or they want to have cool powers. They like the crunch that 5e has compared to PBTA. And, to say, I can cast black tentacles and I can hit 5 times and rage. There's an appeal to that. There definitely is. In which case, they might want to like Pathfinder. They might like Pathfinder too. Again, I don't know his players. I just know his preferences, and he's the GM. It's his call. He can run whatever he wants with his group.
We'll see you all in the next video.
Okay, cool. Bottom line is he's not that interested in the crunch. I don't think he's going to like 2e either, even if he gives it a chance. So here we go. Notepad's opinion on Pathfinder 2e in about 9 minutes. Ooh, they have like 1,000 videos. Broad knowledge of nerd topics, much broader than what I have.
I think this video is a long time coming, but I think it's time to talk about a very special game, and that's Pathfinder 2e. Pathfinder 2e is special because I've been condemned into the cycles of guilt for over, 3 years now, I think, playing one of 2 campaigns every week.
So he's actually played Pathfinder 2e for a while. Lots of visual information. I try to avoid having visual info while giving dense script.
Came and subsequently went during the OGL crisis a while back, so it cemented a dedicated fan base of people who really want to play Dungeons and Dragons but want to be hipster about it. I could run through the D20 system.
Hipster? I don't know, isn't he kind of insulting people now?
Let's talk about the action economy first. The much touted feature of 2e was the 3 action economy, which is a blatant fucking lie they're telling you to seem different. Truth is that most turns compose of a main, minor, and move action if you're feeling generous. Ours was a caster, and as a caster...
No, you can have 3 action activities. Like, what is he talking about?
Almost every goddamn spell is either a 2 or 3 action move to get at what you actually want. Not to mention some power creep in certain spells, but I digress. So
okay, he is like super shooting out information really quick and saying strong opinions. I'm not going to be able to, block every single one with my Wonder Woman bracelets. But for him to say like spells require 2 or 3 actions kind of sounding like he's complaining. I mean, that is a deliberate decision so that you don't cast 2 spells, very impactful offensive spells in a turn. There's a reason for that. I don't know what he's complaining about. You couldn't do 2 spells in 5e or 4e or 3e.
Every combat boiled down to the same 2 actions. Cast a spell, move or stick thumb up ass. Slippy is a bit better. Now he moves, uses Tiger Stance, and then flurries. After that, he flurries, moves, and then makes a MAP attack.
Okay, this is getting kind of similar to the Taking 20 video where there's an illusion of choice argument. It's predetermined what you do. Like here, maybe you don't want to end your turn next to the ogre, right? So maybe you want to move in, flurry, and walk away without entering a stance. And maybe you have a superior speed. You're a monk. You might have a 35-foot speed, and that ogre is going to need 2 actions to get up to you. That's a valid choice. Here, flurry, step, and then map attack. Why would you do an attack with -10? Because flurry is 2 attacks. Thumb up ass. This is crude humor. That's not very funny. To sound smart, I guess? Or I don't know what you're going for. I guess I am getting a little spicy, you guys. but he's asking for it. There's also all of the athletics maneuvers. What if you have a ranged rogue in your party? What if XP to level 3's in your party, a gunslinger rogue? Maybe you should grapple or trip that enemy. I don't know, instead of put your thumb up your ass. Or do an attack with -10, which might as well be sticking your thumb up your ass.
MAP is multiple attack penalty, and one of the core reasons why the 3-action economy is a blatant fucking lie. If you're fighting...
What? It's a lie? What did you think? Did you think it promised you to make 3 attacks at full bonus? What do you mean it's a lie? That's a strong statement.
Everything you do is an action. Your action economy is even more important than before, because our super important final boss we fought went down pretty quickly because exploiting the action economy to effectively deny actions that they had.
I don't know what point he just made. He said 3-action economy is a lie, and then you have all of these actions that, and he said in a derisive tone, they all require actions. What, you wanted some of them to be free actions? I don't know what he's saying. I honestly don't know what he's saying. He's just sounding angry. Using the action economy to deny a boss monster some actions, he said that like that's a bad thing, because the same rules apply to the monsters that apply to the players. Many people see that as a plus, and that your side doesn't win because the GM's going to favor you.
I needed to decide on whether to actually use a spell that would fail or make an attack that would also fail. Because with every enemy scaling upwards faster than a non-optimized character, get ready for needing 18 plus to do fucking anything or praying they fail their DC 21 save with a plus 19 against it.
Okay, so he's complaining about high stats of enemies. I guess he's talking about, some people might call it the treadmill effect. You level up, but your enemies level up too. But if your desire is maybe what happens in 1st edition Pathfinder and 3rd edition, where if you optimize your characters, you become more and more likely to succeed at what you attempt to do over time. And I think that's true with 5e because of the way that system's designed, with some things, not all things, not with your saving throws, first of all. Then that feels like progress for your character. However, there's a downside to that, in that inherently makes the game harder to balance, because if level no longer means level, if what you're looking for is the player's math to surpass and go beyond what enemies they're facing, say goodbye to a working encounter building system. It's like a small minority of spells that call for an attack roll. What a lot of people who move from 5e enjoy about Pathfinder 2e is that so many spells call for a saving throw, and they have a partial effect when the foe still succeeds and does not critically succeed. It's not just a binary. But he does say in his script here that he's talking about you casting a spell that's DC 21 while the foe has a plus 19 to their saving throw. That is a high level 8 creature versus a level 5 caster. Yeah, you're going to find that a level +3 boss is probably going to succeed against your slow spell. And damn right is what I say. I mean, unless the GM is being particularly cruel to you and putting 2 or 3 of those creatures in front of the party, your party has 4 times as many actions as they do. You're going to succeed less often, but there's more of you. Wait, just use will spells? Yeah, let me read the GM's mind. And working, it's sometimes the partial effect is still very valuable. Slow spell makes them slowed 1 for 1 round. It denies the boss 1 of their 3 actions. That's great. For some reason, he didn't like that in the previous point. He doesn't like denying the enemy actions, but he didn't explain why. Also, recall knowledge is being pointed out. Yeah, that's a way in the rules to learn what their weakest saving throw is. I'm reading from chat. That's why GMs bring monsters from earlier fights to new encounters after the party levels up. Yeah, you can feel your sense of progress. Those ogres that were a scary boss at level 1, you can now take on 12 of them if you're level 7. That feels really cool.
Get ready for needing 18 plus to do fucking anything or...
He's just exaggerating what he's saying. 18 plus when his own example on the screen is 12 plus? Like, come on. His party was struggling. I mean, you might not like this, but okay, if the GM might want to not put big boss creatures in front of the party too often, and that's a problem with a number of the earlier APs that Paizo published, because those can be frustrating to a good number of players. Those are valid feelings. Also, if the party's getting killed, then the encounter should not be tuned so high. if he's ranting and making a video about it, I imagine he expressed this at the table also. And there should be some conversation about it.
Ron was playing a thaumaturge, which needed about 5 attributes to do their job.
A thaumaturge needs 5 attributes. They need charisma to exploit vulnerability, and then they need strength. If they're a champion and running up and leaving your party members behind, assuming they're one of the ones that support their allies' champions, then that's some bad tactics there. But we don't know for sure.
Luckily, our champion would often run off or just single target focus things because they were a wrestler. And
Okay, so was their champion? Yeah. If they had one of the reactions where the main feature relies on an ally being nearby, that's a bad idea.
lead to the rest of us getting mauled. But hey, that's fine.
Okay, so he's complaining about his party dying. All right. And if he's complaining, and he had an example of attacking with a -10, and he was complaining that the 3-action economy was a lie, and then immediately jumped to saying that you have the multiple attack penalty. That implies he had a preference for attacking multiple times. Maybe that's why he picked the monk. Maybe he wanted to make 4 attacks per round. And he was frustrated that his expectation, how he thought the monk should play, wasn't how he was making 2 attacks at -10. Then you're kind of not adapting to the system. And the GM's not adapting to your frustration to your party dying while playing the system. Why is he complaining? This is the second frame where he complains about rolling a 1. That's not PF2E exclusive. I don't know what it's like. He's non-specific in his rant, which shows he's not really. I think it shows okay, I'm going to be mean here, but his lack of precision and thought. Oh my God, that sounded very diplomatic. That's leading to him making these conclusions and just kind of like, it sounds like he had a bad experience, but he's not diagnosing it. And he's blaming natural ones on Pathfinder. Like, that's silly.
A 10-man combat gets really damn slow when it takes everyone a minute or 2 to do their goddamn action, not mentioning the hemming and hawing because they have 3 actions.
Didn't he say your turn was predetermined? If that's true, how does it take, 1 to 3 minutes? The comment here says 10 minutes. But that's right. Like, he's saying 2 contradictory things. His group is the problem, says chat. I guess. But I'm not sure what they would be better served by, honestly. I don't know.
Draconian submission to the challenge rating and level scaling means that getting anything not approved.
Whoa, was that a 160 XP encounter? Nearly every goddamn fight is extreme for us. Yeah, it sounds like the GM is giving hard extreme encounters. Am I reading this right? And the party blamed it on the system, which is silly. Why don't you put a video saying your opinion on your GM? Because that's not what the game was designed to be run.
Let's talk characters. You know the meme already that PF2 is 90% of feats for everything. Slippy is a monk, a fairly simple class, and if you exactly 3 options with them: a key monk, weapon monk, or fist monk. The first 2 have a fairly dedicated set of feats you need to take to make it actually work, and the fist monk has the rest of those locked off.
I don't see the complaint there. I mean, are you complaining that because you chose Archer stance, you cannot fight with your fists? Is that the complaint? Because you actually are pretty decent with your fists still. Your attack bonus is going to be the same. In my experience with 2E, it's like the taking 20 complaint. Just because you choose feats doesn't mean you're doing only that thing over and over again, and that every other option you can do on your turn is trash because you don't have a feat for it. I don't think that's true. You might find yourself in a situation where you build yourself where that might be the optimal thing to do, like a flurry ranger, and you have a bow that has a 0 reload action cost, but then you built yourself into that situation. So you really don't have a right to complain about creating a routine for yourself, because you would have chosen that if that was what you wanted.
Not to mention you need Dex for your AC or die immediately due to crits, Con to not be a wet paper towel, Wisdom to make sure you not go last in initiative, and God forbid your class requires intelligence or charisma.
Okay, he's complaining about all the stats being important. Yeah, but people who know Pathfinder know that it's very generous with its abilities bonuses. He's just complaining about his character sucking, it sounds like. But this was a conscious decision to make every statistic helpful to every character class, potentially. Yeah, you have to make meaningful choices. I see chat saying, what do you mean I don't have a god stat like 5e dex? Again, I don't know if 5e is his preferred system, but he's complaining that you have to have some trade-offs, which I think is a silly complaint. It just sounds like his main complaint is that his character sucked and his experience was negative. And it sounds like it was a combination of the GM and the players in this case. The GM was not adjusting for the party's lack of skill in Pathfinder, or was overdoing it and giving extreme encounters. And or the players and the GM were not communicating about the frustration.
Speaking on skills, I will save you, me, and everyone else a massive headache and say, God, I hate them.
He's complaining that they're scaled to level. I don't know what the complaint is.
Limitless options are tempered by few real choices. You really should be just pre-planning your character to make sure you don't fall off by level 4 or needing to spend time that the GM may not even bother giving you to retrain everything.
Okay, I'm sorry. You have to plan your character levels ahead in order not to fall behind. That's what adding your level to your skill is for. And he complained in the previous slide that it scales to level. So I really don't know what his complaint is here. If you made a suboptimal choice or a choice you're unhappy with from ignorance and the GM saying fuck you, that seems kind of a GM issue. If you're this angry about it, genuinely angry about it.
Suggesting you aren't playing a class with about 15 special mechanics to worry about looking at you, swashbuckler.
It has panache. Two ways to get panache. So 15 is an exaggeration. Swashbuckler is more complicated than a barbarian and a fighter. It is. But don't play that class if you don't want that much, if you don't want more complexity. I don't know.
But hey, with leveled items and gold, you have the undying privilege of being able to afford absolutely nothing and being rewarded with items that may or may not be useful, if you use them, of course, because most are consumable, and the ones that aren't are priced in a way that you might get one if you're very, very lucky. Suggesting the I desperately need this magic item or my build falls apart isn't stated many, many times.
Okay. If you don't like having to buy certain items, there's the automatic bonus progression variant. And even if you don't have it, your GM shouldn't screw you over if you don't have a +1 weapon by level 6, you know? Maybe that can be said more clearly. But on the other hand, the book's very explicit on how much treasure to give folks. You'll have to be pretty ignorant if you don't know that striking runes exist and you don't buy one.
Yippee-ki-yay, the pyrite rat. I'll reuse it because my action economy demands that I use all my actions every turn doing something useful, and it'll just die upon impact.
I mean, this complaint can be on summon spells in general. You need an action to sustain it and command it, but apparently needs all of his actions to make that -10 attack instead of make an attack with a giant rat with a +5 bonus. And you're the monk. Was this a monk? If it was the monk character, they have like more actions than they know what to do with, unless they're spending it all in full map attacks. Okay, I don't know if this is the monk character. I'll stop.
Are you having fun chugging a potion for +10 movement speed or +2 AC instead of doing anything else?
What are you spending your 3 actions on? His other character was a spellcaster, and he was complaining that it costs 2 or 3 actions. So maybe you only saw value in firing off spells. But actually, spellcasters usually have a clear extra action because unless they need to move, that they can do something else with. So again, I don't know. He hasn't made the case, a persuasive case, that he needs all those 3 actions to do something more useful than these things.
Now, this isn't talking about the entire glut of seemingly random actions that everything actually is, with sub-rules for each of them.
Okay, the complaint here is that it's defined how to force open something. Yeah, I think it's cool that if the GM wants to use this, and they can also have the players look these things up too, you have a ready rule for how to deal with the 4 degrees of success to force open something. This tells you right here that when they critically fail, then future checks will have a -2 penalty. That's kind of cool, instead of just wing it. Yeah, it gives examples. That's very useful to a beleaguered GM who doesn't want to be just told, make it up. He's a player, not a GM. So I think GMs will like the fact that some things are defined. Most GMs, not all GMs. There's a case to be made for not everything being defined. In which case, just don't look at those rules or don't use those rules. Or maybe look at another system, sure. In this case, it's not really limiting because this is probably what you would have made up on the fly anyway. Success breaks it, failure doesn't break it. This is not really limiting what you would do otherwise. And critical success means you don't damage it if you want to not damage it. That is something that you might have made up, and it's actually probably better than what you would have made up. Because, for, a critical success means you don't leave evidence behind. That's kind of a cool idea.
This isn't bitching about how they changed all the goddamn names of things so that you need to double check everything in the remastered edition to make.
Okay, and that was a situation forced on Paizo by Wizards of the Coast. I don't know if he's actually blaming Paizo here. It's just a rant in the spirit of ranting. The anger should be at Wizards of the Coast, not at Pathfinder.
I do not like Pathfinder 2e, but I am stuck playing it. Oh, but your GM is just bad. Do you realize how much of a fucking cop-out that is? Oh, your build is wrong.
It's not a cop-out, because they're giving you said they give you extreme encounters.
Oh, your build is wrong. Not much better, asshole, at all.
No, not your build is wrong, your play is wrong.
Sorry, you're playing the game wrong.
Yeah,
maybe if you sucked less, it would be good. But I don't.
Yeah, if you either sucked less, it'd be better, or the GM accounted for your skill. Or maybe they're giving you too hard encounters, which seems to be the case.
I don't want to play it anymore, but they seem to like it. So here I am, screaming in.
Okay, so your other players like it, but you don't. Okay.
It's great. I love it. I hate it. My name is Notepad, and this was not my favorite game. If you like what I do here, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna die a little on the inside now. Goodbye.
That's it. Happy April Fool's Day. Was that all a joke? I hope it was. Was this on April Fool's? It was. I'm gonna look at chat now. His attitude is very wrong. Stop being angry and work with your GM. I think that is a main takeaway for here. Encounters are too hard for his taste. He should play in an easier game. I think he's experiencing frustration that should be talked about and addressed. I do think some of those early APs, yeah, it can be a difficult level of difficulty that many players will not enjoy. No, it has to be earnest because it oozed earnestness. I don't think this was an April Fool's joke. He said he loved it and he hated it. So there's like in the very end, there's kind of that he has a love-hate relationship with it. But he's also saying he's being tortured, cock and ball tortured. I don't know, maybe he loves being tortured. What I don't get is a number of things just contradicted each other. Like he was saying he was doing the same thing every turn, and then he was saying that the game involved spending too much time figuring out what you did on your turn. And he's talking about the difficulty of the game, but that can be addressed with the working and counterbalancing system. And he exaggerated a number of his statements for rage purposes. Okay, well, I've got to spend an hour doing dinner, then getting ready for my night out. I got a little ranty there for the second video. I hope you were entertained. Hey Ronald, did you think I linked a good video? Yeah, that was some good rant material. Oh, if you have other ideas of what I should react to, it doesn't have to be videos either, then on my Discord server, go into the content suggestions channel and make a thread there and I will check it out. But yeah, I don't think this will be the last stream of this nature, and it won't just be rants either. Like, I have some other ideas as I continue in my casual era. Okay, cool. All right, thank you for tolerating me. 163 viewers, oh my god. As the rage increased, the viewership increased. Cool. That's it for now.